Welcome, everybody. It's great to see you all here today. I've been looking through the chat, and there's just folks from all over, from South Africa, from South Carolina. It's wonderful to see you here this morning. Now, jumping in, whether you're a seasoned People Fundamentals attendee through webinars such as the one today, or you've discovered us through our popular LinkedIn newsletter or our podcast series of the same name, we're thrilled to connect with you. People Fundamentals is dedicated to empowering HR professionals such as yourselves with the tools and knowledge to shape your workplace for the better. We believe in your ability to make an organizational impact by addressing the opportunities and issues you face today. At the center of this challenge is the pace of change. The world around us is changing at breakneck speed. Workplace disruptions are around us, such as generative AI, hybrid and remote work, hiring booms, workforce contractions, and all of this makes the unprecedented really feel like the new normal. And amidst this whirlwind of transformation, human-centric leadership emerges as a guiding principle. Recognizing that developing a culture where employees feel valued and supported leads to increased engagement, motivation, and productivity. Simultaneously, integrating your employee experience, or EX, with customer experience, CX, amplifies loyalty, retention, and business performance. So let's break that down a little bit. From a business perspective, we know that customer retention is critical for every business, as the cost of retaining an existing customer is much lower than the cost to acquire a new one. And as businesses mature, significant portions of their revenue come from contract renewals and expansion. Your customers are making those renewal decisions based on the value they get from your product and the experience they have working with your customer success and support teams. That means your CSMs and your account managers are the face of your company, and supporting them in their well-being has never been more critical to business outcomes. In short, you can't have a great customer experience without a great employee experience, and vice versa. That's why today's webinar is about strategic alignment between EX and CX, fueled by continuous feedback and data-driven insights to ensure that everyone contributes and benefits from the business success. So I'm thrilled today to announce our speaker, Jeannie Walters, CCXP. Jeannie is not just an award-winning customer experience expert, but a true trailblazer in transforming reactive customer service into proactive customer experience. With a distinguished background as the founder of Experience Investigators, Jeannie has lent her expertise to an impressive array of Fortune 500 companies, including Orange Theory Fitness, where I go, SAP, Comcast, and JP Morgan Chase. Today, Jeannie will walk us through a journey that bridges the gap between HR strategies and customer satisfaction. We'll explore innovative approaches to employee engagement that directly contribute to customer experience and improving it. Expect to uncover actionable insights on fostering a culture of empowerment and recognition, and how these elements are instrumental in elevating both employee and customer satisfaction. So let's give a warm virtual welcome to Jeannie Walters.
Hi, Ashley.
Hello. It's so nice to have you on our talk today.
Thank
Jeannie,
you so much.
before we dive in, we usually kick things off with a little bit of an icebreaker so the audience can get to know you. I'm curious, Jeannie, can you share a fun fact that we wouldn't know about you just by looking at your LinkedIn profile?
Well, on my LinkedIn profile, it doesn't really talk about how I really enjoy hip hop. I like a lot of different types of music, but I think people are usually surprised to find out that I like to have hip hop playing in my office. I've gone to concerts. It's like my alter ego sometimes.
Oh my gosh. Well, Jeannie, have you heard Beyonce's newest song release, Texas?
Oh my goodness. Have I heard it and replayed it and can't stop singing it? I don't know what it is about that song, but I have been totally into it. So I mean, she can do anything, really. She
She
can,
really can.
yeah.
She is amazing. I love that song too. It's such a bop. Well, I'm so excited to have you here today, and
You.
I'm really excited to listen to what you have to say.
Thank you. Yes, it's so good to be here with everybody. What a thrill to have folks from all over the world who are interested in this subject, which I really believe is kind of the key to unlocking success across the employee experience, the customer experience, and ultimately get better business results for all of you. So, you heard about me, so we're not going to spend too much time here. But before we get started, we have a quick poll. I would love to run that and see what you all think, just to get a sense of where you are. So can we run that poll? There we go. The question, would every employee understand their role in delivering the customer experience at your organization? So far, it looks like the no's are leading, and I would think that that is pretty consistent. What I have seen in the work that I do with different organizations, not just Fortune 500, but all over nonprofit, healthcare, you name it, is that we talk a lot about these subjects, but we don't necessarily give people the tools, understand kind of how do we create the right vision. And you know what? That's not our fault. So as we move forward with this topic, I want you to really embrace that idea that when we are taught about business, when we are taught about leading organizations, a lot of times we start with process first. We start with tactics first. We're told things like, you know what, we need to get our processes in order to get to that next stage. But if we don't take a minute to step back and really look at the why are we doing this in the first place? Who are we really delivering for? How can we make it better for everyone? Then we miss huge opportunities to engage not just with business results and with process, but with this spectacular thing that we all do for the world. The mission of my organization is to create fewer ruined days for customers. And the reason that's our mission is because I really believe that makes a better world. We've all had those days. We've all had those days where we have to call somebody back who promised to call us and, they never did. We all have those days where we are looking for opportunities to, achieve a goal or feel a certain way. That is provided by the employees who not only work right in front of us delivering that service, but every single employee in our organization has something to do with this. Thank you for letting us know about that poll. I think that most of us here would acknowledge that, you know what, every single employee in our organization probably doesn't understand that connection to the customer experience. So instead, what happens is they believe that it's something that the customer service people do, the frontline people do. I've spoken to groups, different organizations all over, and I cannot tell you how many times I have somebody come up to me afterwards and say, I'm in distribution, I'm in invoicing, I'm in HR. I've never thought about how my role connects to the customer experience because they don't think it applies to them because we don't really talk about it. We don't connect the dots. So today, what we're going to talk about is customer experience, what that is, what we can do about it, employee experience, how that fits into all of this, and what happens when you have alignment or misalignment between the two. We have the chat open, we have Q&A open. Please feel free to jump in and ask questions. We will have time for that. So when we talk about these things, we talk about, you know what? Let's elevate everything. Let's elevate our processes. Let's elevate how we, deliver for our shareholders or stakeholders. What I want to talk about today is how do we elevate everyone? Because every single person in the organization, every single customer we serve, that's an individual human being. And I can already hear some of you say, well, we're B2B, right? You don't understand. We're business to business. So our customers are businesses. I would push against that a little bit because within those businesses, there are individuals making decisions. The robots have not taken over yet. Every single decision that is made within an organization is based on individual people who are deciding, is this right for us? So when we're serving customers, we have to think about how are we serving that one customer with that one employee? So before we get started, this is something to drop in the chat here. When I show you this, what does this look like to you? What does this make you feel? So let's see. I'm going to move over and see. So take a minute, drop into the chat what you're seeing when I show you this. And let's see. So what is that feeling that you have?
Hey, Jeannie, I think we are unable to see your presentation. Is there any way that you might be able to share it using the screen share tab? Thank you so much.
I
And make
sure
sure that we see this
can.
beautiful slide for our chat engagement.
Let's see.
Should be next to your camera tab at the bottom of the screen.
There we go. Helpful to actually share what I'm talking about, huh? All right, here we are. Here we are. So when I show you this, and you can let me know if you're not seeing it, but if when I show you this, what is it that you're feeling? Confused. I'm seeing confused, confusion, lots of disconnected. That's not right. Ugh, my brain hurts. I love that one. Wrong. Yes, doesn't match. All of those things that you're feeling. And I love doing this. Somebody just wrote why, which I totally agree with as well. When we see something like this, our brain starts actively working and saying, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, time out, time out." That is because when we are actually looking at something like this that has the wrong colors, the wrong titles, our brain knows better, right? So these are actually just lemons. Now, we all know what a lemon is. We all know what it's called. We all know what color it should be. So when I show you this and use the wrong colors and the wrong titles, it creates that icky feeling inside of us. And that is cognitive dissonance. When we have a deeply held belief and somebody holds up something that looks like a fact, then what happens is our brain starts sending all those alarm bells that you just started expressing and feeling. When this happens, we actually start working against what we believe is showing up as reality. So the reason I bring this up now is because when we are in this kind of work, when we have to understand other people as well as all of you do, when we have to work with individual employees and individual customers who are all coming with their own life experience, their own judgment, their own cultural backgrounds, everything, we're going to experience things a little differently. But when we're on the inside of an organization, we know exactly how hard it was to roll out that process. So when we start hearing from customers, this isn't really working, when we get that negative feedback, when we start hearing from employees that, you know what, they have decided to do something that's a workaround instead of actually following a process because, they just didn't like the process, we can have these alarm bells going off saying, whoa, that is not true. The process is beautiful. We worked so hard on that. The other way this happens is with people. So maybe we have a customer who says, I called in about my invoice and the person I spoke to was not great. They were kind of rude. Well, you know that person. That's Sally. You go to lunch with Sally. She's great. What are they talking about? So your brain starts telling you, no, that is not true, customer. That cannot be true. And the reason I bring this up now is because you might experience cognitive dissonance as we talk about these subjects, because you know exactly how much work goes into these things. You know that maybe you don't have the resources that you need. You don't have the support. Maybe you don't have the buy-in from your leadership. And so it's very easy for your brain to start telling you, don't even try. But what I want to encourage you to do as we go through this presentation today is to think about, what can you try? Where are the places that you can actually, make an impact? Where can you actually try something today, tomorrow, or even something that you can plant a seed for next year? So let's go on that together, but embrace that feeling. And if you feel that cognitive dissonance coming up, just tell your brain, hey, knock it off. I'm here to learn. I'm here to act, because this can stop you without you even knowing. So first of all, let's start with, what are we talking about here? When we are talking about customer experience, we're not just talking about customer service when we are reacting to a customer who might have a question or a comment. We're not just talking about frontline experiences like through sales, or if you have a field operation, or if you have cashiers or folks like that. We're talking about every single thing that happens to a customer. Now, you don't even have to say the words customer experience. Your customers are having an experience, whether you are intentional about it or not. But the leaders in business are intentional and proactive about their customer experiences. And the only way you can do that is if you also focus on employee experience. Now, sometimes when we talk about customer experience and employee experience, it can seem like, oh, that starts when it starts. That starts after somebody becomes a customer. That starts after somebody becomes an employee. But really, the experience starts before that. It starts when they first have awareness. So, what is the awareness of your brand? How do they become aware of you as an employer? It starts way before that because that's when perceptions start being made. That's when expectations start being set. And then we guide them through an entire journey. And if those expectations are misaligned, that's what creates people to have doubt. That's what creates their own cognitive dissonance. So, whenever we talk about customer experience and employee experience, we're talking about way before it actually starts. And then it doesn't end when they walk out the door, it ends after that. Because after that is when they're telling other people, you know what? I love this brand. I think you should shop here. Or I really enjoy working here. I think you should apply for a job. I might not be there anymore, but they were great, right? So when we think about this, it can become kind of overwhelming because, in a way, customer experience is universal. We have to provide the same experience for all different customers. But at the end of the day, experience as a thing is very individual. It's individual because if we are not being intentional and proactive about it, then what happens is we're expecting every single individual to make a judgment call. Sometimes when I talk about the work I do, I hear feedback from people, especially, I sit down next to somebody on a plane and they say, "What do you do?" And I'll explain customer experience a little bit. And 9 times out of 10, they say something like, "Well, yeah, yeah, we really need better customer service." And it's really common sense. So they're conflating customer service. They're saying this is the only thing that matters. And they're saying, well, everybody should know how to do this, right? Same thing with employee experience. We often say, well, managers should just know how to coach people. Managers should just understand what it means to set clear goals. But what we're doing then is we're asking every single individual to make a judgment call. I want you to think about any relationship in your life. It takes 12 positive experiences to overcome one negative experience. Think about that for a second. We all have relationships where we know we have friends we can rely on. We have partners who help us get through the world when we need to. And we all have those people where we go, oh, yeah, I can't call them, right? They're unreliable. What that tells us is that they have not shown up in a positive way enough times. When something negative happens, it naturally erodes trust. What we need to do is have enough positive moments in the emotional bank so that when things happen, we can overcome those negative moments. When we ask people to just use common sense, we are missing opportunities to really define what experience looks like and what we're expecting from each individual. I want to share a personal story here. So, there is a small local independent pharmacy in my town, Oak Park, Illinois, called Sears Pharmacy. And my family, like many families, we have a son with a tree nut allergy. Now, you might recall a couple of years ago, EpiPens, which are life-saving, and we need to have several. We need to have one in the backpack and one in the downstairs and one on the in the soccer bag and all of that. A couple of years ago, EpiPen prices went way, way up. They were more than $1,000 in many cases for each pen. So we've gone to Sears for a long time. We put in our order because they also expire. So you need to do this every year. And I got a call from somebody at Sears Pharmacy. And they said, we know this pricing is ridiculous. We're mad about it. CVS has a special offer right now. We're going to transfer your prescription over to them and send you a coupon so that you understand what is actually happening, so that we understand what's actually happening, so that you can go get this important prescription for your family. Now, that meant a loss of revenue for them short term. But think about what that took inside that small organization. They made a conscious decision to do what's right, and they empowered their employees to do that in such a powerful way. So when we talk about things like customer experience, when we talk about being proactive and intentional, this is what it means. It means that, yes, they lost a short-term sale, but they gained a lifetime customer. And this is something I share with so many people, so you can imagine the referrals as well. So as we get into this, are we talking about the same thing? Customer experience happens whether you're intentional or not. Customer experience management happens inside your organization. Now, customer experience management is a cross-functional idea. We cannot do this alone. So there's not one person in your organization or one team that can do this. This is really about making sure that everybody in the organization understands their role so that you can work together to deliver on that. I have a little formula I like to use for customer experience because really it's about the perception of the customer. Think about when you go into a Nordstrom or a high-end department store, wherever you live. Now, you might feel very well served. There are usually people there to help you. There are nice dressing rooms with good lighting, all of that. If you go into a Walmart, you wouldn't be upset if the dressing rooms didn't have great lighting or things weren't quite as nice, because expectations are different. So you don't get disappointed in Walmart because they've shown you who they are. They say, these are the expectations. We have low prices. We have lots of different things to choose from. This is what you get. We're happy with that. Now, there's a lot of data that shows that actually Nordstrom shoppers are also Walmart shoppers in some cases. That's because there are different promises made and different needs met. So when we think about customer experience, it's really about your perception as the customer minus your expectation. So if you have an expectation of a Nordstrom, a high-end department store, and you walk in and it's not as nicely arranged, maybe the lighting's not as good, there's nobody there to help you, you will be disappointed because that does not meet your expectation. So your perception is that you're not meeting the expectation. You're going to be disappointed. Now, if you walk into something that maybe you didn't have high expectations of, and they came over and they treated you very well and everything was great, that's when you are super happy. And that's when you tell people because it exceeded your expectations. But the reason this is tricky is because it's all multiplied by emotion, both yours and theirs. Humans are not really logical in many cases. We actually drive our decisions based on our emotions more than logic. We rationalize. And so we have to actually understand, what are the emotions we're bringing? What are the promises that we've made? And then how do we match and meet the emotions of the customer as well? This is why I talk about being reactive versus proactive. Anybody can react in a situation. What we want to do is make sure our people have enough to really be aligned with the values and vision and promise of our organization to our customers so that they can be proactive about what they're doing. So proactive, positive customer experience actually prevents service issues. So sometimes I get asked the question of, well, how do you invest in this? How do you make sure that you get a return on this investment? This is how. If we can reduce service costs, if we can reduce the tasks that our employees are working on to solve problems by preventing the problems in the first place, that's proactive customer experience. And this all comes down to both alignment and acumen with our employees. What I have seen a lot is that we have great big promises for customers. We have maybe a brand that's very well known. And then when you actually talk to employees, they say, yeah, it's a little funny that that's our brand because I don't feel that in the organization. And one example that comes to mind is an organization I was working with where their promise to customers was to be quick. They were going to respond quickly, they were going to get products quickly. Everything about it was fast, fast, fast. And yet within the organization, there was a culture where if you called me for something, if you reached out across the organization for help, I may or may not get back to you because that's not on my major responsibility list. That's not how I'm evaluated. So we have to look across the organization at how do we have this alignment between employee experience and customer experience? And then also, how do we give people the acumen to do it well every time? Because if not, again, we're asking for everybody to just make their own individual judgment calls based on very loose ideas. This is the one I hear a lot. So somebody gets up there, maybe a leader at a town hall, and they say, we're going to be customer centric, everyone. So get ready. Customer first, right? We have all these great logos and slogans for it. Now, I asked a leader once what he meant by this, and he went up to a whiteboard and drew this. What are people supposed to do with this in the organization? How are they supposed to make different decisions based on these big ideas? Like, yes, we're going to focus on proactive customer experience. And yeah, we are now customer centric, everyone. So sit up and pay attention. What happens is people hear that and they think, oh, I already have enough to do, right? I already have enough to do because this is not my job. This is not what I was hired to do. So they think about it as something in addition to their job. But the organizations that do this well have alignment from the very beginning of the employee experience. So that very beginning, before they get the job, if they get the job, all of those things, all the way through to every single role that they play, every single task that they have, they think about the customer experience and they know what's expected of them. Now, I want to share a few examples of organizations that I think are doing this well. One is Carvana, which really disrupted selling cars. They have these crazy vending machines. They deliver cars to your house. They will pick up your car if you're selling it, all of those things. And so what we want to do is think about how do we actually put this into words that are unique for our organization? And one of the things I love about what Carvana does is they have something called uh, zagging forward. One of our company's guiding values is called zagging forward. It means we don't just innovate to be different, we innovate to be better. So, I love the term zagging because it also gives this impression that it's not linear. We're not just going to keep innovating to be innovating in a linear fashion. We're trusting our employees. We're going to make some mistakes. We're going to have some missteps, but we're going to keep going. All right. Remember how I told you it takes 12 negative experiences or 12 positive experiences to overcome one negative one? Well, get this. The brands that do this well provide 22 emotionally positive experiences for each negative one. So think about where are those places where you can actually insert a little more positivity into your customer experience and into your employee experience. Where can you turn up the volume a little bit? I always like to think about this as where are the places we're neglecting just because we know we can neglect it, right? When we are selling to a customer, sometimes we pull out all the stops, we make them feel really important. And then the minute they say, yeah, I want to be a customer, we send them an invoice with all the horrible things that will happen if they don't pay on time, right? How can we make that experience a little more positive? When we're bringing people on, when we're going through the hiring process, how can we make some of those stickier points a little more effortless for the people that we're serving? The more positive moments that we can introduce into the journey, the more likely we will be able to overcome those negative moments. So 96% of talent professionals say employee experience is becoming more important. And yet I see so many organizations who still aren't investing in it, who still aren't prioritizing it. We cannot say something is a priority and give it no funding or resources. When things are a priority, we have to actually treat them like they're part of the business. And of course, this is about so much more than the customer-facing employees. There is no doubt that the experience employees have, how engaged they are, and how well prepared they are to deliver it has a direct impact on customer experience. So when we are talking about this, we are talking about a yin yang here. We're talking about two sides of the coin. When we improve employee experience, it improves customer experience. But here's the other part that sometimes we don't think about. When customer experience gets better, the employee experience gets better. Nobody wants to work in an organization where they're getting plenty of complaints, where we are experiencing things that don't feel right for customers. I actually was working with an organization and asked individually the people who were involved in the customer journey mapping session. I said, would you refer somebody to work here? And most of them said no. Even though they believed in the customer experience, they couldn't really, they knew that they were getting better at it. They said at this point, no, because it's too hard. The customers are too hard. We don't have our journey figured out. And so these sides go together in ways that are pretty spectacular. Engaged employees see 20% higher sales and 21% higher profitability. And that, going back to that question of would you refer somebody to be here? Referred job candidates tend to stay longer and have a higher job satisfaction rate compared to candidates from other sources. Now, this is data from Zippia, and they said that they referred hires tend to stay 70% longer than other employees. Every single organization is dealing with turnover, is dealing with employee churn. And so this is really about something that every single organization needs to think about. All right, so magical experiences are not magic. They don't just happen. It's not common sense. They're missions. And so this is where we get into customer experience is a mindset, but that's not enough. A mindset is a set of beliefs that shape how you make sense of the world. So think about that. Do you have a customer experience mindset that you all can share with one another, that you have articulated? That's what we do with a customer experience mission statement. This is a guiding statement for your organization around the experience, around what the experience should be, but also what are we doing for customers? We're not just delivering widgets. We're helping them achieve a goal. We're helping them run a better business. We're talking about, really helping people create a better world. I want to give you an example of an organization that I think does this really well. But as I go through this, I would love to hear what are organizations that you feel like really live their mission? And go ahead and drop that in the chat. I'm going to pull that over here. So when we talk about living the mission and how this all ties in, there's an organization in North America here called REI, and they're an outdoor space, and they're an outdoor store that really focuses on, camping equipment, hiking, all that good stuff. This is their mission statement. Now, not every corporate mission statement will translate to a customer experience mission statement, but I really like this one because they say at REI, we believe a life outdoors is a life well lived. We believe that it's in the wild, untamed, and natural places that we find our best selves. So our purpose is to awaken a lifelong love of the outdoors for all. So you can see here, it doesn't mention products. It doesn't mention selling. It doesn't mention transactions or revenue or doing the best for shareholders, which a lot of corporate mission statements do. This is about what are they doing for those customers? And I'm seeing some great examples already. Luxury brands, BMW, Mercedes, the North Face. Yes, another outdoor one. Vans, love that example. Vans, the shoe, they know exactly who they are and they know exactly who their customer is. Chick-fil-A is getting a few votes. Yep. Prada, Audi, great examples. Disney is definitely one that comes up a lot. Disney, Amazon, Zappos, they come up a lot. And that's because they really do look at the customer experience first and then build the employee experience around that. Patagonia, a lot of outdoors one. So REI has this love for helping people get engaged with the outdoors. And so what they started doing was on Black Friday, which is the Friday after Thanksgiving, which is typically the highest revenue day for retail spaces in the United States. It's the day that people line up in advance for all the sales and all of those things. So REI started thinking, wait a minute, we want to do what we say we are going to do for our employees. So they started closing their stores on Black Friday. They said, you know what? We're not going to participate in this because we want our employees to have the opportunity to live over the weekend, over the holiday weekend, and be outdoors like we talk about, because we believe it provides their best selves. So they started something called Opt Outside. They experimented with it a few years, and then starting in 2015, they started doing this every year. Not only did it, of course, make employees happy, but customers that they're trying to appeal to recognized that they were living up to this promise. So they have actually been very profitable over these last almost 10 years, because customers are very willing to sacrifice one day knowing that that lives up to their values and vision. And then translating this into, what does that mean inside the organization? Well, that means that this is showing up. This is who they are. This is from their job site. Now it says better is a journey, not a destination, which I love. And then you can see that they talk about start from a place of respect and set out with purpose to be the co-op and individuals we all know we can become. It aligns so well with the overall mission statement. So when you are thinking about your mindset and your mission, a customer experience mission statement is there to guide your employees. It's there to make sure that everybody understands who we are. Remember, I talked about that organization that was all about being fast? Sometimes we have to make trade-offs, and we have to declare who we are. We can't always be the fastest and the most accurate. So we have to decide who we are and put that out into the world through this mission statement. The mission statement will also be there to really help your employees with those judgment calls, even inside the organization. If we're committed to being fast in our responses, that means that's how we show up for one another. And then if we are fast with those responses inside our organization, guess who benefits? The customers. Because usually we are trying to solve a problem. We are trying to make something better, even if it's on the inside of the organization, even if it's a technology or tool or process. All of that is so we can deliver more for customers. So if we are not living up to the promise that we're making outside the organization, inside the organization, then we are going to feel that misalignment. We're going to miss opportunities to have employees refer others who are more apt to stay with us longer. We're going to miss opportunities to serve customers by solving problems before they happen. All of that goes together. But a mindset is not enough. This is what I was talking about before when, I say people have big town hall events and they say, we're customer first. We are customer centric now. Saying it is not enough. We have to turn it into a strategy just like any other part of the business. Now, can you imagine a world where we have a sales team and maybe they didn't have a great quarter? And so somebody says, well, I guess sales doesn't work. We're going to get rid of the sales team, right? That would be crazy, because we all know that sales is part of how you run a business, how you actually do business. Customer experience is the same. We need to dedicate some amount of focus and vision and resources to make sure that we are actually defining what success looks like. Saying we're going to be customer centric is not a goal. Saying we're going to be customer centric and we expect all of our employees to deliver a great customer experience does not give them enough information of what success looks like. So by strategy, we need to define success tied to your organizational goals. Yes, we want happy customers. Yes, we want higher employee feedback and customer feedback scores. But the scores are a measurement. They are not a goal. The goal is something for your organization, an outcome. So maybe in the employee experience world, maybe we want lower turnover. Maybe we want to make sure that people stay with us longer, that we don't have to invest so much in hiring and interviewing and all of those things. Maybe we want to make sure that people are able to see their future at our organization and see how they can really contribute long term. Maybe we want to make sure that they understand their role in the customer experience because we know that will lead to better customer experiences. So we need to get clear about what that is. But what I see a lot is that we just miss the vision and values. We just skip that part. And we talk about things like, you know what, we need to improve this team. This team needs to be better, or this manager needs to be better. But we don't tie that back to what is the entire experience. So there's a tool that comes straight out of customer experience best practices that now is used in employee experience that I think is really powerful. And that's journey mapping. So if you can actually walk in the shoes of your customer, of your employee, what is it actually like from their perspective? Because sometimes we are really focused on process mapping, on understanding process, but we don't ever look at the other side of that equation and think about what's actually happening for the person experiencing that. All right, I think we have another poll. So let's go ahead and try that. Let's see. Have you ever participated in employee journey mapping is the poll we're seeing. Yeah, this is still pretty new is what I'm finding. So I love seeing that some of you have already gone through this. One thing I will say is that the challenge is often presented as, oh, we've got so many different types of employees. We have so many different everything. How can we do that? Just focus on one thing you want to get better at. Focus on one part of the journey that you know could use some attention and start there. And by going through employee journey mapping, you can actually start seeing things like those moments of neglect that you can just make a little better, that you can maybe provide something that creates a little less friction for that employee. And then you can actually, see those improvements in real time. You can have more in that emotional bank so that when things don't go perfectly, they're willing to work through it with you. You built up that trust. All right. Thank you for participating in that poll. And I just want to make sure you can still see my screen. Yes. Okay. All right. So we have to create cross collaboration. CX teams that collaborate cross functionally are 27% more likely to have a high or very high return on investment. This is why it's important. It's not just about making people feel good and aligned. This actually produces real business results for your organization. So we have the mindset, we have the strategy. Now what? Well, we need to turn this into an active business discipline, something we do every day, something people understand as part of their role. Accountabilities, who's doing what? We often tell people, just like I said before, that this is something that they just should do. Just focus on the customer experience. But if we don't align everything, if we don't have that mindset with a mission statement, if we haven't defined success with the strategy, then how do we know what they're doing every day and if it's contributing to the successful outcomes that we all want? So a CX charter is something we use to really outline who's doing what for whom when. And this is straight out of project management best practices, but really this is about defining if this is the promise we've made, how do we actually deliver on it for our people? And how do we actually give our employees the right tools, goals, understanding, accountability around it so that it feels real, so that it's something that we're all working towards, not just something that we're talking about. We need to leverage tools. So another great example is IKEA. IKEA has a really wonderful vision for their organization to create a better everyday life for the many people. So essentially, it's not just about furniture or their stores or their Swedish meatballs. This is about we are trying to do something bigger. And then they took that a step further and said that they really want to have a positive impact on the world. So a few years ago, they really decided to focus on sustainability. And they were completely transparent about what they're trying to do. So you can find this is public overview of their ambition and commitments. They want to make sure they have a circular and climate positive experience. So I don't know about you, but if you've ever put together something from IKEA and then tried to take it apart, it can be very challenging. One of the things they've been doing, according to this, is actually create things that are easier to take apart so that they can be easier to sell and move, etc. So they are really committed to this. But what does this mean for employees? Well, I just pulled this from Glassdoor. So you can see that everything is lining up here. They say they make sure you're confident in your ability to deliver exceptional service. So everything comes together because there is no, customer experience group only focusing on customer experience and employee experience over here. They literally look at it as not just for their employees and customers, but also for their suppliers and partners and just how they show up in the world. And I think that's really the standard that we all want to get to. How can we show up in the world the same way for our employees, customers, and everyone else? And again, it produces results. One of the things that they said was that one of their competitive advantages is their expansive knowledge of customers. And then you look back to that employee who said, yes, I felt confident. They make sure I was confident in delivering exceptional experiences. It all goes together. So 3 things to remember: connect with your mission, discuss outcomes, not magic. It's not enough to say just deliver, and then align overall priorities. Now, there is always so much to say here, and I know we're just getting the tip of the iceberg here. We have some resources for you and everything. But one thing I want to say is sometimes what I see is that people are onboarded in a certain way and they're told about customer experience. This is who we want to be for our customers. But if they're not in a customer-facing role, that's the last they hear of it. It never really comes back. It's an ongoing experience with communication and learning that we have to focus on. And then 3 touch points where these things definitely meet. First impressions, the candidate experience. I've seen some of you in chat mentioning that, so that's awesome. Listening, employee feedback, and then working through change. So candidate experience is so important, and it starts when you're actually attracting people. So if you have that customer experience mission, put it in your job postings. You will start finding people who really align with that from the beginning. So the whole candidate experience is so important. Interviewing, make sure we're setting those customer-centric expectations from the first interview. How will you consider the customer in the decisions you make? How will you dedicate yourself to ongoing learning? And then what is the impact that you believe this role will have on our customers? If they know that from the beginning, if they know this is a priority, then you're going to find that alignment earlier in the process and throughout. And then again, we want to make sure that onboarding is for everybody, but we also want to continue that CX training as well. I know we're getting close, so I'm going to whip through these a little bit. So employee feedback. Many of you probably run those employee engagement surveys. Getting the feedback is not the goal. And sometimes what I see is that they're very proud, organizations are very proud that they have a survey every year and they get engagement on that survey. But then nothing happens. They don't report out. They don't feel heard. So employees start kind of phoning it in because they recognize that, you know what, I can tell you whatever I want on the survey and nothing's going to happen. Just like customer feedback, we have to close the loop with employees. We have to make sure that they understand how their specific feedback is making the organization better for both customers and employees. And I love this last question I want to highlight here. If you had a magic wand, how would you improve the experience for customers? Such a great question to ask your employees because they have ideas. They want to be heard. They want to innovate. We have to give them permission to do so. And then employee journey mapping is a great way to involve people. So by actually going through the journey mapping exercise, you can bring in all sorts of different employees who have different experiences who can share with you exactly what's happening and help you improve the experience. That is a great form of employee engagement by including them in that process and letting them know how important it is to hear their voice directly. And then finally, this is a changing world. I totally recognize that. We have to help people feel like they can adapt quickly. And being agile, sometimes what that means is that they are there will be missteps. We have to give people permission to have those missteps, but also say, we want to hear from you. What are you seeing in the marketplace? What are you seeing in your environment that you think would help us stay ahead? Going back to that Carvana example of, we need to zag forward with innovation. And then I just want to leave you with this. When things are not aligned, things happen quickly and usually not what we expect. So I landed in the Los Angeles airport, LAX, and I waited 2 hours in line for a rental car. And everybody was frustrated. It was a terrible experience. I got up to the desk. They gave me finally my car, which was parked in row triple Z slot 450. I had to walk all the way across, right? I get there and there was no car in the spot. So I had to march all the way back, go up to the counter again, ask for the car. And they said, "Oh, sorry about that. Just go to this one." So I went to that location and luckily there was a car there. But when I opened up the door, the driver's door, this was on the seat. Now, obviously, this is something they did not think I would see as the customer. This was not aimed at me. However, as a customer going through that experience, I can't tell you how accurately this described how I felt. I was a low priority, and that was obvious. And so the things that we think won't be seen by the customer, they will be seen by the customer. And if we have this misalignment between employee experience and customer experience, then really that leaves opportunities like this to happen a lot more often. And of course, none of us want that. And I know everybody here, you don't want that either. So think about, how can you create that alignment? How can you focus on a mindset, strategy, and discipline that will show up every day and help you show up in the world exactly who you are every time? So with that, I'm going to leave a few minutes for questions. See, I talked too much, but I would love to hear questions as we get into this. And then we also have some resources for you that are available as well.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Jeannie. That was such a wonderful presentation. And that last takeaway with the car, we've all been there where we feel as though we're low priority, or there are moments where we don't feel like we're getting the best customer service. And those takeaways definitely are lasting for us. We have seen a lot of great questions come through. So I want to make sure that we're able to get to a couple of them.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and if you wouldn't mind sharing your presentation, we can bring this question up from Brooke. What metrics or KPIs do you recommend for proactive customer service? How does a business get started with it?
Great question. Great question. So here's what I see. I typically see KPIs in customer experience as feedback metrics a lot of the time. So you might have goals around net promoter score, for instance, or customer satisfaction rate. Those are measurements towards something else. So I always think about, what will it do if we have happier customers? Well, we might have higher retention rates. We might have higher renewal rates. What would a 1% retention rate do? You know, that can be millions of dollars based on your organization. What would a bump in employee retention do? That could be millions of dollars for your organization as well. So I always look at, what would it start with your organizational goals? What are you actually trying to do? Every organization in the world has two goals: higher revenue, lower expenses. So if you can tie your goals to those, that's where you start. And then you start predicting, you start looking at patterns and saying, okay, if we get a higher net promoter score, that will mean that we have happier customers. Maybe you have a customer referral program, and maybe you look at that and say, okay, how can we connect the dots to, if we get more referred customers, what would that mean in dollars and cents to our organization? If we could prevent those service issues from ever going to customer service, how could that lower expenses? So always start with that organizational value and then figure out, what are the measurements that support that, not the other way around.
Incredible. Brooke, we hope that answered your question. Thank you so much, Jeannie. I'm going to pull one more question up here from Amy. How do you make the link between EX and CX clear to make for more investment in EX in the process of EX?
Another great question. So this is where really making sure you have alignment over both what are you trying to do as an organization, but then the data that you might already be collecting. So look at data points like, not only from your employee engagement surveys, if you have those, but also things like how long does it take to hire somebody? What happens when we have people who aren't engaged? And then look at your customer experience metrics and see where those things line up, because often they line up pretty perfectly. We just never take the time to look at them together. So if you have employees who are reporting that they are disengaged, that they would not refer somebody to work at your organization, that's a great question if you're not already asking it. If you look at those numbers and then you look over at the customer experience and customers are basically saying the same thing, that's where you start making that case again for the organizational value. You say, okay, we know that our employees are not engaged enough to deliver great customer experiences. We know that because we're not delivering those great customer experiences, we're losing customers. We are spending way too much on sales and acquisition instead of keeping customers for the long term. You can make your business case for that. I think the challenge that I see in both employee experience and customer experience is we don't always speak like business people. We speak like people who are, very invested in the idea of these things because I believe in them for certain, but our leaders need to see the value. And so we need to make a business case.
Incredible. We're going to do one more rapid fire question because I really like this one. Jeannie,
Yeah.
what is the best way to link ROI to people engagement budget?
I think it's that same thread, right? Like we have to make sure that we are looking at what does this actually mean for the organization? What would keeping employees, a year longer, what would that actually mean for your ROI? That would mean huge things, right? What could we do with innovation if we had people who stayed longer? That's where we have to really look at what is that connection between employee engagement, customer experience, and overall business results.
Incredible. Well, I'm glad we were able to get to a couple of questions. Thank you all so much for your engagement. Thank you, Jeannie, for an incredible presentation. We really enjoyed all of your takeaways.